Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me, on behalf of the Norwegian School of Sports Sciences, to welcome you all to this trial lecture in particular fulfillment of the requirements of the award of Doctor of Philosophy, PhD, in Sports Sciences. My name is Åge Radman. I'm the new rector here from the 1st of August this year, and I will chair the two sessions here today. And in particular, I would like to welcome the members of the examination committee, Associate Professor and Prorector Live Luteberget, Norwegian School of Sports Sciences, and the first opponent, Dr. Greg Wood from Manchester Metropolitan University, and second opponent, Professor Tommy Haugen from University of Agder, Norway, the second opponent. And furthermore, I welcome special candidate Khelifa Bartura, who will give the following lecture: Heart rate, variability, and performance under pressure. Neurophysiological mechanisms, theoretical frameworks, methodological approaches, and applications in high-stakes environments. Indeed, over to you, Khelifa. Welcome up.
Me, yeah. So imagine climbing to the icy slopes of Mount Everest, 8,000 meters. They call this the dead zone, and where oxygen is scarce, and each step is a battle. Team Alex is halfway up when a sudden storm rolls, and whiteout conditions blind them. And the choice is obvious: push for the summit or turn back. While his teammates panic, Alex checks for his watch, not for the time, but for his heart rate variability. The data shows his body, though strained, remains calm and stable. Trusting his real-time heart rate variability data, he makes a clear-headed call: aborting the climb and saving his team's lives. 2 days later, another team keeps climbing while they ignore their body's warning signal and pushing forward in the same extreme condition. And guess they never returned. Tragic, isn't it? In extreme conditions, the right data doesn't just inform decisions, but it saves lives. So the role of heart rate variability underscores how crucial physiological signals are in extreme environments. But what exactly is heart rate variability, and how it influences performance when the stakes are highest? So to unpack these, first, let me give you some key definitions. Heart rate variability is a physiological phenomenon of the variation time interval between two adjacent heartbeat. It is measured by the variations in the beat-to-beat interval using ECG. And the second important key definition is performance under pressure, and which refers to the ability to deliver your best work when it matters the most, despite high stakes and potential for severe consequences such as failure. So the key distinguishing feature for performance under pressure is optimal performance. It's challenging to perform optimally when the stakes are high because there are risks of failure or errors. The chance for error is very high. So this challenging environment sometimes it's not, some people they thrive, some people fail or collapse under pressure. And sometimes it is not considered, like achieving, performing well, optimally under high pressure condition is not only considered as like success, but also sometimes it is considered as even survival in some cases. So performance under pressure involves a number of fields or domains, from military to sport to even emergency responses, fighting. And it's not limited to these. These are just examples. It goes to businesses, education, but I will come to that later. So in extreme environments, whether on the Everest slopes or in a war zone or during a critical medical procedure, the margin for error is razor thin. The body's stress response means the difference between success and failure. But how exactly does this relentless pressure rewire our physiology? So the answer lies in the heart rate variability, partly a dynamic biomarker of the autonomic nervous system's agility. So by examining how high-stakes conditions modulate heart rate variability, we uncover a direct neurophysiological link to performance. So let me give you how this link, the neurophysiological, how it works, how it influences heart rate variability under pressure conditions. This is the classic explanation of how pressure influences heart rate variability. It is given in 1997. But this is in a broader sense, but the real story is far richer. The brain-heart axis is not a simple two-lane highway. Rather, it is a dynamic network of neural and biochemical and mechanical pathways. I'm not gonna just go through this. This is to show you that it is a very complex structure, or the mechanism is very complex, interconnected with different pathways. But let me explain. When a stressor is detected, then the brain, in physiological terms, but for the general audience, just I'll explain, or like in a very simple, I'll summarize later. But physiologically, when stress is detected, the brain's command center activates, and particularly the sympathetic adrenomedullary axis, and that sends a signal to the hypothalamus, or the stress is detected by the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus takes this sympathetic drive all down way through spinal cord and the adrenal medulla, where this fills the blood streams with adrenaline and noradrenaline. That is when we perceive pressure or stress, so we are in fight and flight condition. And this activation targets the heart through the sinoatrial and the atrioventricular nodes. You can take these as electrical impulses in the heart and the cardiac muscle, and then through norepinephrine, it ignites the rate of the sinoatrial node, that is the pacemaker. So it enhances the heart to pump high or to increase the heart rate. And that even increases the contraction of the ventricles strongly, and then that speeds through the atrioventricular conduction. The speed would be higher, and then that results in a rigid and monotonous heart rhythm. That creates the lower heart rate variability or decreases the heart rate variability. And that means people don't have control, both mind and body. The same thing, to respond to that stress, the parasympathetic or the vagal nerve is the most important one here through the acetylcholine. This is a neurotransmitter, and it targets first, it deactivates the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic or vagal brake, it targets the sinoatrial and the electrical impulses through acetylcholine, as I already explained, and that makes the firing of the pacemaker lower, and which decreases our heart rate, and then it gives us a very flexible, adaptable heart rhythm, and this enhances the heart rate variability. This is how the brain and heart are related to influence heart rate variability under a stressful situation. But it looks kind of complex, yeah? So let me summarize this one, so that we can have a common understanding. The system is the sympathetic. It is in the autonomic nervous system, and its nickname is accelerator. And the action on the heart is through norepinephrine or epinephrine, and that is adrenaline or noradrenaline, fight and flight. And the effect on the heart, it increases the heart's heart rate, and then it gives us a low heart rate variability. And that means it is dysregulation of body and mind. The parasympathetic, it is called vagal or vagal brake, and the action on the heart is through acetylcholine, that is neurotransmitter, and this decreases the heart, and then it increases the heart rate, and that gives us, or that enhances regulation of body and mind. So we thrive during pressure conditions. Here we just fail, or we do mistakes under high stakes condition. So this is one thing. This hardwired neurophysiological response to stress pressure conditions sets the stage. But it is through the theoretical lenses that we can decode the critical role of heart rate variability, transforming it from a mere symptom of stress into trainable skill for peak performance. So let's go through the theoretical frameworks. Is there any model that explains this relationship in high-stakes environment? We have the first theory is the polyvagal or the vagal brake efficiency. Just imagine this as a car's brake, the analogy. And when you accelerate, off means when you accelerate, when you give gas in the car, then the sympathetic drive activates the fight-flight mode, the stress, and that gives us stress, and we will be in a reactive behavior. And whereas when we apply brake, then it enhances the vagal activity or the parasympathetic, and it makes us calm and adaptive. So this is one way of explaining the relation between, especially in relation to pressure or threat. And the most cited theoretical framework is the integration model, the neurovisceral integration model. According to this model, they propose that the heart rate variability reflects the dynamic interplay between central nervous system, particularly the cortical, the prefrontal cortex, and the subcortical, the amygdala, the brainstem, insula, and through vagus nerve, it achieves or it influences heart rate variability. So when stress is detected, then when the prefrontal cortex is weak, then it makes us panic, and that decreases the heart rate variability, and it results in dysregulation. Whereas when the prefrontal cortex is strong, then it makes us calm and enhances heart rate variability, and that results in regulation. And the third one is, or the latest one, is vagal tank theory, and consider it as a mobile. When we charge it 100%, that is the resting heart rate, or the resting, or the baseline. And when we use it, the mobile drains, and then it drains the tank, and then the theory says it needs recovery. Then that means charging. Then it comes to full. The tank will be full. So even during stressful situations or high-stake conditions, we breathe high. It's a normal fight and flight condition due to the sympathetic drive, and then it makes the vagal tank low and decreases the heart rate variability. But when we recover or rest, then the heart rate variability will be stronger or higher, and then that makes us regulate our behavior or actions. So these are the three common, I mean, there are five, basically, but, relevant to this presentation, I have to limit the number of frameworks. So, sorry. Having explored the engine of the stress response through mechanistically and theoretically, now it is time to look at the dashboard, or the tools and the gauges, the methodological approach, and heart rate variability indices that allow us to monitor the system. Measurements include baseline heart rate variability during events and post-events and recovery. We have this in research settings. And we have devices, different kind of techs nowadays. And the ECG multi-lead is considered as a gold standard because it has been there for a long time, and it is valid and reliable. But and there are also other wearable heart rate variability techs nowadays. And there is also another way of measuring heart rate variability, or using peak-to-peak interval, using oxicometry. And there is an interesting discussion, Chen and Stones, they have provided a methodological analysis deeply about the pros and the cons of these commercially wearable heart rate variability techs. And the rule is data should be obtained from short-term recordings, 5 minutes, or 24 hours long-term. And there's also now, it's possible also to measure ultra-short-term conditions in different situations. I'll come to that later. And analysis, there are many tools or programs that analyze the heart rate variability recording, and the QBS Heart Rate Scientific is still the gold standard because it is comprehensive. But now there are even Pythons, R, and Hamming windows. There are different kind of analysis tools are available, but this needs more coding. And all in all, the analysis should follow the guidelines of these guidelines, heart rate variability standards and measurements physiological interpretation and clinical use. This is developed by the Task Force of European Society of Cardiology and the North American Society of Pacing and Electrophysiology. So there is, and the metrics, we have the frequency domain, a high frequency power band is considered as, that is the, when it is high, that means you have good regulation. And this frequency domain is used for short-term recordings, heart rate variability. They analyze this data through only for the short term, but still it's. And the other one is the vagally mediated this root mean successive square successive differences. Also, the time domain, it is for the long-term recordings. And let's come to now, armed with mechanisms and theoretical and methodological foundations, we are now equipped to see the pressure heart rate dynamics in action. Heart rate variability has several applications in the field of sport and exercise psychology, especially performance under pressure conditions. And in days leading up to competition, for example, pre-competitive anxiety, there are 12 elite female volleyball players, and heart rate variability measure in the lead up to competition 2 days before and 1 day before and the morning of. And the results show that participants show slight heart rate variability change before a decisive competition. And another study shows 66 participants with heart rate variability measured prior to competition, 30 minutes before and 3 hours after. And the result shows there is an inverse relationship between heart rate variability and cognitive and somatic anxiety. But these two studies, the first, this one, they used 12 participants and they measure heart rate variability baseline 30 minutes before the last stage of regional competition in cycling, and they found no relationship between pre-competitive anxiety and heart rate variability. And the second one, they used 44 participants, and heart rate variability was measured prior to training and competition, and they reported that they found nothing. There is no relationship. So generally, this new systematic review, they say the relationship between cognitive stress and cognitive anxiety and heart rate variability is still unclear. But in real world competition in rally driving, and these are elite in male international, Italian national rally champion, and heart rate variability was measured in test day, rest day 1, rest day 2, and rest day, and as you see here, the driver and the co-driver, the elite at elite level, had a sharp decrease in this heart rate variability indices. So that means its heart rate variability is a good indicator for stress level during competition. Let's talk about the dual task as a high-stake condition. There are well-established theoretical link between executive function and heart rate variability, and cognitive performance emerged as an important topic area. So dual task as a high-stake condition. There are a number of studies here, but when you see here, athletes' better working memory was linked to high heart rate variability. And surprisingly, elite golfers showed lower heart rate variability. Even they are elites, they showed. That means it affects their performance. But there is no relationship between Stroop-based task and heart rate variability. But again, the general or the summary of this is heart rate variability, the link between heart rate variability and the cognition findings remains mixed. Medical emergencies. This systematic review showed that they included 3 articles in a medical simulation as a stressor, 6 used medical procedure in a real surgical procedure, and 8 used in medical emergencies in real world. And the key finding is 11 out of 17 articles, that is almost 65%, they showed that medical professional heart rate variability in the indices showed very low, and that affects their performance, especially the latest systematic review mentioning this systematic review, concluding that acute stress spikes errors weakens both technical and non-technical skills, impairing surgical performance in simulated and real world. So, especially in emergency, in life and death situations. Very relevant, exam anxiety. This is also a longitudinal study, and they showed that participants here at time 1 significantly predict test anxiety. They were found that they showed anxiety, and at 2, whereas emotional regulation and inhibition controls were not significant. But in the first, they have shown lower heart rate variability because of the anxiety. Military deployment stress. Again, they have shown a decrease in heart rate variability because of the activation of sympathetic system. But that was not related to their cognitive performance. Driving and flight emergencies. Again, this study also showed that in ultra-short term, the participants showed lower heart rate variability during ultra-short term in drivers during stressful conditions. And this study as well, emergency flights, especially it was low during landing, and but heart rate variability increased during the flight. And this is also in military pilots, and there is a higher sympathetic response during the emergency maneuver when compared to the baseline. So these are applications in high heart rate variability in high-stake environments. And work and work-related stress, it's very relevant. And for example, in businesses, making critical decisions under tight deadlines, market volatility, like in inflation and recession and leadership crisis, there is also applications of heart rate variability. They imposed work stress in effort and reward imbalances, and this shows the heart rate variability shows there is a low heart rate variability in LF moderation by disrupting the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. And this leads to poor decision-making, slow reaction time, and sharp decline in performance. And influence of computer work under time pressure. Everybody works these days on a computer and during time pressure, and they measured computer mouse working performance, such as digits correct rate and sequence correct rate, and high versus low pressure conditions, and they found faster heart rate and decreased heart rate variability under time pressure. So there is interesting systematic reviews that support this work and work-related or occupational stress and heart rate variability. I encourage to just go through them. And the most common one these days, e-sport and gaming and social media as a high-pressure situation. And this one, this article or this paper, e-sport gaming imposes stress and fatigue on heart rate variability-related parameters, heightening sympathetic activity, that is also, and suppressing parasympathetic function. And this one, the use of heart rate variability as a systematic review, a new one, I think it is 2023, and 7 studies were included, and 3 studies collected heart rate variability during live tournaments, and all reported significant reduction in heart rate variability. But they said there is a lack of theoretical and methodological grounding for these studies, they concluded. And playing a violent TV game versus non-violent non-violent games, TV games, and the results shows that heart rate and sympathetic tone and mental workload were significantly higher during video games, and that affects their heart rate variability. And there is an interesting doctoral dissertation from United States, and it is pressure was manipulated using under high versus low social media usage, but they found, of course, relevant, slightly lowers heart rate variability. But generally, there are so many factors that affect heart rate variability, including physiological, such as age, gender, circadian cycle, genetics, and diseases like cardiac disease or lung or psychiatric condition or metabolic conditions. And lifestyle change, drinking, smoking, training, weight, and there are external factors such as taking medicine, and so we need to keep this into mind when, so some of the papers, these are confounding factors. Some of them they didn't mention or they didn't control these factors. But the good news is heart rate variability is trainable. And there are studies, this is a systematic review, and almost 85% reports that heart rate variability biofeedback training improves athletics performance. And even they say they improve attention control as effective as meditation. And the other meta-analysis study, the recent one, and long-term intervention with slow-paced breathing and breath holding were related to improve physical sport performance with large and small effect size, respectively. And another study with a randomized controlled trial, and we have it enhances the autonomic markers or the parasympathetic nervous system. So we have discussed or we have seen the physiological or neurophysiological mechanisms, the methodology, and the application, and what is the takeaway? We live in a very highly competitive modern society, and that makes us very anxious and develop aggressive behavior and low self-esteem or dissatisfaction. And heart rate variability is not just a metric, but it is a biomarker who thrives versus who collapses. So the choice is yours to use it or not. But I personally recommend to use it. Even you have been using different forms of methods or different approaches for health or for performance, but including heart rate variability in your lifestyle or in your daily life, it enhances. It's a plus. It's a wise choice. But at the same time, listen to your body. And these are the 3 takeaways. Why we need to use heart rate variability. Because it is non-invasive, and it is affordable these days, and it is connected to the real-time applications. So according to the data or the research, it's going to give you superior emotional regulation under pressure, and it's going to enhance faster, clearer decision-making, and it lowers a risk of catastrophic error. And I think, I sound somehow croaky in the middle, but just hear it from the experts. They can give you an amazing information from the neuroscientist, Huberman, my favorite one, and the TED Talk, clinical psychologist, and Labor, he is the founder of the vagal tongue theory, but this is in Dutch, but still, those people who can understand Dutch, yeah. And I appreciate for the comments and for the support to prepare this presentation. And I really thank you for the time. And if you are interested to check, these are the top 10 references from my side. And there is also a very interesting rebuttal of the polyvagal theory. It's in 2023, interesting, and these are the references. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Khelifa. It was a very informative lecture, at least for me. Thank you. We have a few minutes left to 11 o'clock, so we open up for one question from maybe Greg. Would you like to start? Yeah, you have a microphone coming for you there.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for a great presentation. Question I have is, when you're talking about the analysis of heart rate variability,
Yeah.
You talked about the time, and there's a frequency component too. So the time component is, if I got it right, the time between RR intervals and the kind of the variability in that. You said the frequency, in terms of the frequency analysis, you said the gold standard is high frequency power. And there's low frequency power as well.
There is also.
Why is it that we look at the high frequency power only?
It's a very good question, because the high frequency is it's an indicator of the vagal, the parasympathetic vagal tone. That's why they look at the. Of course, it is also related with the respiratory and other physiological, but they look at. They took that one because it reflects the activities of the vagal tone, which is important for the influence of heart rate variability.
Okay, so what is the low frequency component then? Why can't we use that?
It's a very interesting question. That means, from my understanding, because that one is, of course they use it,
Yeah.
They use it if there is a low ratio, for example, low frequency by high frequency. That shows that the activity of the sympathetic drive. So they use it definitely.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to show is when they report, it has a high heart rate variability, for example, in the RMSSD or also high frequency, because that reflects the vagal tones activity. But when we use the low frequency, that shows also the sympathetic drive.
Okay, good.
I hope I addressed your question.
You did, yeah, good. Yeah. Anybody else? I can have another question if you want. Okay. And okay, let me see which one. Okay, you kind of one of your take-home messages is that low heart rate variability is always negative.
Because
is that the case, or is it task dependent?
Of course, it depends on contexts and it depends on individuals, and there are many factors. But why it's not like considered as bad, but it's gonna give us more stress, and then it doesn't give us the opportunity to thrive when it matters the most. But yeah, I mean, it's a kind of indicator. It's a kind of it's a biomarker. It's not like 100%. Sometimes there are cases where they have low heart rate variability, but they perform even best. But the consensus is that when you have a low heart rate variability, that means you are not resilient to the stress or that pressure. So that affects your decision. That affects even your health. Okay. In terms of behavioral change, for example.
Okay, but if heart rate variability is a measure of kind of self-regulation, the ability for you to adapt to the task, in a physical task like walking up the stairs or something, wouldn't a low heart rate variability be good adaptation?
It is. I
isn't
totally agree.
More task dependent than that?
It is task dependent, and as I said, it is even contextual, and there are individual also factors, as I mentioned, genetics, and it's not just the black and white thing. There are, the body is a big entity. It's not just, like, as I said, use it, but listen to your body. There are many factors that involves in this process. So I agree it is a task-specific condition that affects the heart rate variability.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. As a non-expert in this, my question is probably very basic, but I'm trying anyways. So from my understanding here, the heart rate variability is very dependent on the heart rate. And why do we then measure the heart rate variability and not just the heart rate? So if you decrease your heart rate variability will go up.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Heart rate is, I could have cleared this one. Like, heart rate is the number of beats in a minute. But the heart rate variability is the variations across two adjacent beats or heartbeats, and that would be measured in the ECG. And the heart rate doesn't give you always, it's a rigid compared to the heart rate variability, because you can't see the flexibility. For example, when you see this rhythm, that you can see what kind of you can analyze whether like that heart is in a state of calm or in a state of panic. So I think it's all about rigidity and flexibility. The heart rate variability gives you more freedom, more from that sense. But like, did I answer but
Yeah,
say it again.
You're answering, but how high is then the correlation between the heart rate and the heart rate variability?
That is, as I said, it is because of the influence of the electrical impulses that innervates, that comes from the nerve system. Then, there is a direct relationship. When it is pumping high, then your adaptability, your variation goes down because of the rhythmic. You have a sound of like a popping sound in the rhythm itself. When you are a low heart rate, then the beats are very flexible and so there is a huge. There is a link. There is a direct link between heart rate and heart rate variability. But we focus on the heart rate variability because it is more comprehensive and more flexible.
Thank you.
Thank you to the committee and thank to Khelifa. It's 11 o'clock, and I thank again for a good lecture and invite everybody to return to this room at 1 o'clock, provided that the examination committee finds the trial lecture acceptable. The candidate will then define his thesis, understanding ironic performance breakdown under pressure, unwanted thoughts, cognitive task load, and shooting performance, implication for elite athletes. Thank you, and see you at 1 o'clock.